in case she's having an issue getting in. I just said I'm monitoring my phone.
Oh, got it. Good evening, everybody. We call the meeting to order. And our first item of business is student representative report. Welcome, students.
All right, we'll start.
Okay.
My name is Lincoln, and things at Phoenix High School have been pretty slow recently. I think our winter sports are wrapping up. Swim's just getting done. We have one guy, Quindeos, I believe he's going to state. And then we had, I think, a few guys that went for wrestling to state. I think they all placed really well. That's pretty much about it for me.
My name's Elia, and last week on Saturday it was Valentine's Day. So LSU ran a sale serving phone shots, and they delivered them to students on Friday. And leadership also sold Valentine's Day candy grams all of last week. It also delivered them on Friday. There was a lot of excitement surrounding yesterday's snow day in Utah. And many are looking forward to another one.
Our tour guide got third last weekend, and our CTE night is being moved to next Wednesday because obviously we couldn't do it this Wednesday as well as snow. And that'll be all about learning about what we have to offer at Phoenix and our CTE programs.
So nice. Thank you so much. Any questions for students?
Is that in the evening?
Yes.
And I just wanted to know Holly is joining us via Zoom tonight. So, okay, great. Thank you so much. Accentuate positive.
Good evening, everybody. Kent Valier, principal here at Orchard Hill Elementary. Valentine's Day was last week, but we had a lot of great parties and excited kids here at Orchard Hill. I had really enjoyed seeing a picture of Brent when he was principal here with a Valentine box that a staff member made them for you or something. Very good, very good. Did you? I hope they sent it down to you.
It was amazing how many more Valentines you got at elementary and high school.
Yeah. As you probably know, I spoke a little bit last board meeting about some data and student achievement because we're wrapping up our winter data season. And I just wanted to brag for a second about two of our staff members in particular. Fourth grade teacher, Jenny Weaver, and this is in the iReady math. So at the beginning of the year, only 21%, excuse me. 21% of our students were at or above grade level. And by the winter time, just this last test, that went from 21 to 57.
Oh,
and then in fourth grade, there's also like students who are really struggling with the math concepts. Sometimes they're like 2 or more grade levels behind. In the fall, 29% of Jenny's students were 2 or more grade levels behind, and now 4%. That's only one student.
Wow.
So it made a lot of growth with those kids. Similarly, in the primary, if you've ever been in Ellen Handing's classroom, you are for sure not surprised by this data. Kindergartners can't be obviously 2 or more grade levels behind. So they're just, they're emerging or they're at grade level. So in the fall, 10% of her kindergartners were at or above grade level, 65% were emerging, and now 65% are at grade level, and only 30% are emerging. So just 2 great teachers doing wonderful things for kids, and I'm happy they're here at Orchard Hill. John.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's John Schlein, principal at Phoenix Elementary. I just want to say a big thank you to, we had our Love of Learning event last Thursday night where we had families come in and meet with teachers. And so we had our students separated from our teachers. And so we had a lot of supervision going on. So I want to give a shout out to Brianna Miller. She brought in her whole, she does a side gig of DJing. So we had a dance party in the gym. So just really grateful for her and her efforts in creating a really fun activity for the students to be entertained while the families are sitting with teachers. These meetings lasted upwards of the shortest one was probably 35 minutes. The longest one went over to an hour, and families were really diving into looking at all types of data of their students' learning strategies. We're doing a Make It Right campaign where we're really focusing on writing right now. And so it was just really amazing I just want to give a big shout out to our teachers because it takes a lot of effort to be a teacher by day and then be a teacher of adults by night. And so just want to say thank you to our teachers and to our staff for all of the supervision for that. And then finally, I wanted to give a shout out to our playground aides. Last week, we had a staff meeting and we went around and did a circle, and one of our aides was saying, I'm really happy about how well the playground is going. We've had fewer accidents, we've had fewer incidents and referrals, behavior is going well. I don't know about that today, but like with the snow, but just the amount of what it takes to be a playground supervisor and the connect and yeah, holding rules. We just have a really great staff that supervises our playgrounds, and we have a lot of people out there that support that, from teachers to instructional aides to special ed IAs. So I just want to give another shout out and say thank you, and especially on times like today. I know Joe was at our school today taking pictures, but it was magical. The sun was out. Kids, I said, Joe, just listen to what's happening right here. The kids were just gleeful playing in the snow today. So that's it for the PAs. And I think Heather, maybe is she on?
Yes,
Okay.
well, she was. I told us she would be.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, she was on there just a second ago.
I'm here.
Yay.
Yay! Good evening, board. Heather Loeb, proud principal at Talon Elementary. Hi, friends. I got permission to jump off my class to share because I'm sure Shauna is tired of sharing for me. Equally kind of really excited about last week's Love of Learning event, and I want to especially recognize our co-leads for our family engagement team, Jody Yeamans and Nuvia Pineda. They're very organized, and we were able to offer 2 sessions, and it went off without a hitch. And kudos to Shauna for really initiating this kind of elementary wide writing focus. Make it right. Our families are really engaged in that, and a great way to have some common language about something as important as writing. So that went well. And also Valentine's Day was just super sweet. There's something about being at elementary level for those kind of holidays, like Brent said. It's just a little bit more special and sweet and focused on, the innocence of kiddos. Next up, I do want to share that Officer Divya Amasur, she's with Talent PD. She's kind of taken it on herself to really initiate an even stronger partnership with our school as we seek different community service projects to support our sparrow. So she's gone above and beyond. She's coming over on Friday, and Joe and her and I are going to make a little video about our collaboration and thinking about how kids can be more service oriented and how we can bring different partnerships, not only for Emiliano and raising money for his medical needs, but really just, continuing to work on that engagement with school and community partners. So I'm excited about that. She's coming on Friday, so we'll make that video. And then also, we're about to kick off our artisan residence that's going to be right now sponsored through our PTA's fundraising with her. The artisan residence name is Allegra Brucker. She's from Ashland, and she's got a really big vision, and it's really beautiful. She's calling the piece "The Fish Remember," and the goal is to really create an entire mural on the side of our gym. And it'll take several phases to get it done, and we'll have to find some more funding streams, but she's working on some grant writing and really an homage to the role that salmon and fish have played in this region for Indigenous families historically. So I'm really excited to see that come to life really soon. The kids will be making the first step will be making ceramic salmon. So that's coming up. And then last but not least, it's checkers tournament at Talon Elementary. And if you know, it's a big deal. So kids are practicing this week, and then we'll start the in-classroom tournament next week. And then I'll be happy to report next time who the big winner is. And that's it from TES.
Thank you, Heather.
Good evening, board. Casey Olmstead, principal at Talent Middle School. I connect a little more to what Brent said. We have Valentine's at middle school, a lot less cute, a lot more awkward. I just have a quick couple of comments. I'm glad that John is here as well, but just given the custodial team, maintenance team, I'm just getting our buildings ready and a lot less icy and slippery and all the things. And I know the work that well before any staff actually get to the building. And so just thank you to our team. And then also just wanted to give a shout out to Richard Bird, our librarian. The stuff he does day in and day out of just kind of behind the scenes, and I don't think he gets enough credit, whether it's getting our kids through already, having the library being a welcoming space, doing tech support. Really, I feel like he is just worth a good jump in way, and so just want to give him a big shout out. That's a short and sweet for town middle school.
Cool. Go for it. Evening board, there's on PPTRA. Just a couple of quick items. First is we've got the pollinator project coming in this Friday here to our classroom at Orchfield. They're going to be doing a plant dissection lesson, which is great. We have them every year and they're one of our more popular guest speakers. So looking forward to that. And we'll have probably as many adults as we have kids there for that. Finally, I want to thank our ELD teachers and our ELL students. We're largely finished with the LPL administration for this year. And so that's gone off again with pretty much without a hitch, more or less. But it's a lot of work for those guys. So I want to thank them and I will yield the balance of my time. Chairman. James. I'll keep it.
Thank you. James Joyce, assistant principal at Phoenix High School. And just some updates of some of our students alluded to this. We had 5 wrestlers qualified for the state championships. Weston Miles, Adric Baynard, Tristan Salid, Caden Cunningham, Connor Cunningham. Girls districts is this weekend and then state is the following weekend. So we did qualify the female as well. Our one boy that is headed to state in swimming is Quinn Davis. The exciting part for Quinn is he's currently seated as the #1 swimmer in the 200 and the 500 freestyle. So we'll be wishing him luck. Cheer had their state competition last weekend and finished 7th in the 4A game day competition. We have a bowling team that is headed to their state championships as well next weekend in Hillsborough. DECA is leaving this weekend for their state conference in Portland under the care of Mr. Carvalho. Next week is National FFA Week, and I mentioned CTE night was moved to next Wednesday. And then next week, the production of Clue will be starting, so I'll give you more information on that. And then the last thing that I'd like to mention is a big shout out to all of our teachers and staff. Our grades were finalized and we have our honor roll numbers from 3rd quarter. 242 students were on the honor roll. That's a 3.5 GPA or higher. Of those 242, 114 had a 4.0 grade point average. And that's outstanding. So thank you to everybody.
So thank you, James.
Wow.
Anybody else?
I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
So again, so happy that of the staff that we have, and when I am out and about and people are like, I wish my school did this, I can say, oh, but we do that, and you can talk to this person in staff. I ran into a brand new communications person for Tiger Tualatin yesterday. And she was so nervous, and I asked Joe, will you give her some tips? And he's like, of course I will. So he's like, that's a big district to be communications with. So she was a principal and she's turned principal into communications, which she's a little nervous because she's like, every communications person I talked to was had some kind of media experience, and I'm just a principal. So, and then Nancy and I got to see our student art in the tunnel of DC.
So good.
And that's always fun. It's a good little bragging right, but it's always fun to see like how well our students do. And we have one every single year. And that's such a huge, I mean, it spans this whole district, which is a huge district. And we always have a student. So that is kudos to, yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad people who visit DC actually. I was in DC last summer and you texted me like, did you go see our students' artwork? And I was like, oh, dang it. Okay. Maybe next time. Okay. I just wanted to say I went to Love of Learning night for my kiddo's school, and just kudos to our staff. It's a long day for them, and our staff is doing such a good job of informing parents about what's going on in the classroom. And I see it and feel it in the communications that we get weekly from our kiddos teacher. And it was really cool to learn about just the rigor, you know, it's not excuses, but I don't think people understand the rigor it's been ramped up over the years with the new standards. And my third grader is doing like pre-algebra. And so, I mean, this is tough stuff, and she's being challenged and, you know, has to really think about the concept. So, it's really good stuff. So kudos to all the schools for the Love of Learning Night, and thank you to our staff for showing up and showing up in such a big way. We appreciate it very much. So there's that time you left me, Erin. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to Dawn for the lovely leadership at the National School Board Association advocacy and pushing all the things, all the letters. It's really sweet to have not just someone with like strong leadership skills, but also really supportive of folks that have never done advocacy day, who have never been to these really big conferences that are really impactful, and they, you know, they give us the experience to learn, to connect, to think about the work more broadly. And Dawn just does it with such a beautiful, like, service, incredible kindness, and always asking like, what can I do? What is going? I don't know how many meetings you go to during those times. Like, people are tired. And she's like, oh wait, I have another meeting at 7 o'clock. And I'm going, oh my gosh, no, stop going to meetings. It'll be okay. But not just that. There was also a really huge delegation from Southern Oregon at the 2026 Education Advocacy Day in Salem that happened yesterday. So huge kudos to you for that. Thank you, thank you. And then I also just want to say, I'm really grateful for the school district that we're in and that we all get to support, because Brent participated in a superintendent panel for Southern Oregon Success. And for those of you that might not know what Southern Oregon Success is, it's a cross-sector collaboration of like everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people coming together. And it's education, healthcare, mental health, human services, public safety, and workforce development that come together in our region, Jackson and Josephine County. And it's so important for us to have superintendents at the table. And I know that you served in our design team, stewardship team, we changed the name. But it was just really nice to have superintendents from our region present and share, like, what are the challenges? Because that's really important. Like, we can talk about all the wonderful things that are happening, which are great and important, while also say, let's have a real honest conversation and level set about where we are financially, where we are in schools, how can we partner and collaborate? And it was pretty amazing. Brent asked this question, like, how many of you people out in the audience have a connection, relationship, collaboration with Phoenix Mountain School District? And I swear everybody raised their hand. Wow. That doesn't happen for all the school districts, because I work at a lot of other school districts, and it was just really impressive. So while the work is not perfect, I'm continuously amazed and grateful that we continue to work really hard to make our efforts be more sustainable, more cohesive, and creating this shared responsibility that we all have. Because somebody else said in that, even though the kiddos might not be in our school district, they are the kiddos that are going to be making our community as professionals, as, you know, service industry, all the things, and how, you know, what a beautiful thing that we get to care for them. And I love this philosophy of this Native philosophy that we get to think about 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. And what a wonderful thing that we get to do that through here. The work is messy, the work is heavy, the work is a lot, but I love that we get to do this together. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you all the students, because I love that we get to see them every school board meeting when I'm here. But anyways, thank you.
Did Brent then ask them to fill out his targeted survey?
Taking notes.
Yeah.
Like to say, we don't even realize how lucky we are to have Don and Nancy go to Washington DC and meet with our representatives and carry that much weight from this little school district. And they both, I'm sure, did a wonderful job, and Nancy put some things online, some personal things that about her recollections, and it was really beautifully written, I'd say spiritual, dare I say that, but really feeling that human element and the connection in the center of politics, which not very many people could pull that off, you know, in this day and age. So I feel very well represented.
You know, conversations there, I think it was like one of the best conversations. Don and I left at some of those conversations, like looking at ourselves like, did that really just happen? We were so grateful. And I mean, a lot of things can happen and we live in really interesting times, but it felt really successful. And I think, thank you for acknowledging that. But I think part of it is that we support each other, we trust each other. And in the middle of all of the wild times, that we continue to just advocate for all of our students, regardless of who they are and where they come from. And especially for me, sometimes that's challenging because I might say things that people are like, but it was great. Thank you.
I'd also like to say thank you for the statistics on the honor roll, because oftentimes I get really bogged down with where we're doing on those standardized tests. I mean, I get so depressed and I go home and I look, well, what is our literacy rate in the world? You know, I mean, I really dig a big hole and want to crawl into it. And to have the statistics on the honor roll, and that comes across the board on how they're doing in school, speaks volumes to say that this 3 out of 10 kids are reading at grade level, and isn't that great? Because we came up 20% or whatever, you know, I mean, it reads like it's hard to read that when you know that those percentages don't go very far. They're not 100%, or they're not out of a 10. So honor roll speaks highly, and the attendance increasing speaks to how students feel they belong and have a place there. And that speaks highly too. So, and also I like this appreciation, starting things out with appreciation, thanking the janitors and the aides and food service. It's great.
All right, thank you so much. We will now move to citizens' comments. Do we have anybody in the audience who wishes to address the board? See all employees of Phoenix Town School District. Is there anybody online? Okay, moving right along. Superintendent report.
Thank you, Chair Campbell. I'll just share the thing of being grateful. I just came back from the National Superintendent's Conference, and you know, sometimes we get frustrated with our state, with the speed of government and some of the decisions, and you know, maybe Department of Education. But I will tell you, our state and our Department of Ed are fighting for all kids. That's not the same in other states in our country. And listening to superintendents that are fighting just to protect some of the rights and protect our kids and our families, it was heartbreaking. So I just feel grateful to be able to work alongside you all in a state that really cares for all people. Also want to share, and we've heard this from Kelly Soder, we're doing an adoption for social science instructional materials, and thank you, Kelly, for leading that charge. We invite families and students and staff and community members to review the options and provide feedback. The exemplars are at the district office. We will be presenting to the board probably in April a recommendation. And so appreciate all the teachers involved that are trying out some of those materials as well. So it's been a good process, and we look forward to finding something in April. Finally, I just want to thank everybody with their patience this week on with the weather. And I just want to highlight Janelle at the bus barn. She picks up that bat phone every time at 5:15 a.m. and saying, where are we as far as the roads? And she's already been driving all the way around, and just really appreciate her. Been doing this almost 10 years and have had probably 30 times that we've been well, I don't even know, maybe less, maybe more. That we've had to get up at 5 and drive around and talk about what, what we're gonna do for school. So just appreciate her, appreciate the patience of students and families. I was at the high school today walking around and all of a sudden you become really popular when you're the guy calling a snow day. Got a lot of suggestions, got a lot of advocacy for snow day tomorrow. You just have to stay tuned, so we'll see. That's all I have.
I was in a conversation today and somebody said, it's really hard to be a weather person in Southern Oregon. I said, I actually think it's harder to be a superintendent than trying to be a weather person in Southern Oregon. So, yes, and so we appreciate all your efforts. Okay, next we have a program report. Are you gonna introduce that?
Yeah, this is, we've talked about this, facilities grant and, John is the wizard at applying for grants and getting them. And this is part of one of those. We really wanted to do this because, to see where we are after the bond, and how our facility has been doing. And then, really looking at a 30-year plan, a long-range facility plan on, how we want to support our district. So John, I'll allow you to introduce Susan. I think she's online, that's going to present that, information.
Hi, Chairman Campbell and the board. It's great to see you guys. I don't get to spend near enough time with you.
Same.
So we received 2 grants. One was for a facility assessment where they actually go into every facility. They interviewed me, they checked out all of our equipment, everything we had, and they're just looking for deficiencies. Or maintenance that has been deferred and stuff, and they're gonna present a report on that. The second grant that we got is another portion that they are working on, which is our 30-year long-term plan. The last time that we did both of these was 10 years ago, the first year that I started. And so we, one, wanted to do both of these. We got a grant to pay for both, but also wanted to see how far we've come in 10 years. We had a pretty big hurdle to overcome, and kind of wanted to gauge how far have we come? Have things changed? Do we need new targets? And things like that. And this is what Susan Miller, and she may have Jessica Quinn here to help her right there. And they're gonna present the report and for your review. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Oh, you, Susan.
Good evening, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And so I'm assuming there's a presentation that's up on the board, or you have the PDF in front of you, or is that correct?
Yeah,
I have it. How are they gonna advance through them? Are you gonna share your screen?
I can if that's easiest. When I talked with Denise, she had suggested that it might be presented by you all, but I can share my screen if that's easier.
If you share your screen, then you can advance through the slides yourself.
Okay, let me just go into share mode for a moment, just so I'm doing the presentation mode real quick.
Unless someone wants to run that.
We can run that.
Yeah, we can do that.
We can advance the slides.
Yeah, I don't mind doing it. It's just, it might be, whatever it is.
I'm happy to do it. Whatever you got is easiest for you all.
Yeah, if you share, then it'll be whatever you see easy.
Okay, I sent a request in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, then let me just get into my share mode, my screen mode. There we go. Well, good evening. I really appreciate the time to spend with you all this evening. As John mentioned, CAP AE was hired to complete the TAP program, which is this technical assistance program that basically provides the opportunity to assess your facilities, as well as look at adequacy and long-term planning for you to be looking out 5 to 10 years. And so that's what this presentation is this evening. So we'll just kind of move along. What we're going to be talking about is really what the purpose is of this presentation and the work that we've done. We'll look at the data that we looked at, not only from the facilities, but also demographics, enrollment, et cetera. We'll also talk about the investment options and an overview of what we looked at and talked about with John and crowd, and what was provided in the survey to the community. And then we'll talk about the outreach efforts for community engagement and next steps to finalize this work. So when we're talking about a long-range plan, Josh and I, well, Josh specifically, came up and walked through all of your buildings and did the assessment on all of the facilities and had the opportunity to talk with John. And we also had interviews or survey work with principals, so they were able to talk to us about what they identified as needs, that we could take that back to your superintendent and to John. And we also looked at the adequacy of the facilities. If you think about adequacy, it's not the teachers in the building or things like that. It's if you were to flip over a building and shake it, all the things that stayed inside, such as the acoustics, your technology, locked onto the walls, all of those kinds of things, and are what we call adequacy. Those were also assessed. And we'll look at that a little bit later in the presentation. And then we, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we're able to take a look at the student population and the population in your area and how you are growing and changing, and what that's going to be looking like into the future, because that has impact on how you use your buildings. So a long-range facility plan is actually it's a roadmap, really, to help you think about how your facilities are being used, how you're supporting the students in their education experience, what the utilization of your different facilities is looking like, and are you being equitable in how you distribute your resources across the district facilities and students. What your plan will actually come up with then is a 5 to 10 year plan about the investments in your facilities. We want to make sure that it's flexible because, as noted earlier, if you get grant dollars, you can put grant dollars towards capital investments. So that can be flexible as you look forward to 5 to 10 years out, as well as we're thinking about how you build for financial sustainability. As you know, school districts across the country fight for their dollars, and how you position yourselves to maintain your fiscal strength ties back into how you operate and how you use your facilities. So some of the challenges that we wanted to just show you and talk with you this evening is what you think about as you walk through your investment options. So for example, enrollment, like many districts, Phoenix Town is facing declines in enrollment, and many in Oregon are facing that, as well as the impact of newcomers potentially no longer being part of communities. We have immigration changes, et cetera. So we want to talk about that. Utilization is critical. When you think about how you use your buildings, how many they're supposed to serve, and if you have declines in utilization levels, what that impact is on a financial perspective. But then there's also opportunities when you think through this that we might need to identify with, well, if we have a little bit of extra space in our facilities, can we think about how we can use those spaces with our community? How can we maybe support extra opportunities for our students at the secondary level? So we're thinking about all of those components. And then also, as John mentioned earlier, you all invested in your buildings with that bond that was placed before the community back in 2018. And those dollars went very far for supporting the investments in those buildings, improving systems, improving the experience that your children have now in your elementary, middle, and high school. I'm not going to go through all of these little buckets, but basically the start of a facility master plan is the assessment. We look at the condition of the buildings. We start to also look at the demographics, how you're using those facilities. We then start to see if we're aligning effectively with how we're supporting students and their academic experience. We put together a report, which is, I believe Denise sent you out a much larger document a couple weeks back, which is the one that we put together for community engagement purposes. Then we start to talk about the options and development of those options and how we're going to be looking forward. And then we come into the implementation phase, which is what we will provide to you in April, a final document that says, this is what we recommend you're looking out 5 to 10 years. This is where you have flexibility, and this is where our recommendations are that you start to think about how to invest in your facilities over the near term and into the future. So let's talk a little bit about our background data. As we look at the demographic details on this page, we can see that Jackson County does have growth taking place. This is over 20 some years looking out into the future, not only historic, but also into the future. What you'll notice here, however, is our enrollment levels, or our children level in the 0 to 4 range, which actually starts to help us think about what our kindergartners are going to look like, and then how those children are going to matriculate as cohorts through our system, is relatively flat. In our age range 41 to 64 and the 65 age group, you can see that those groups are actually the area of growth that Jackson County is experiencing. So when we're looking into the future, you will note that we'll continue to see growth in that older area, in that older age groups. So what does that mean for us as we're thinking about how we're going to serve children into the future? On the left-hand side, let's look at the Jackson County population and compare it to district enrollment. We can see the population of Jackson County does continue to grow, while the district's enrollment has declined steadily over the past 10 to 15 years. And when we look to the right, we want to draw your attention to our birth rates in our zip codes of Phoenix and of Talent. I do put a line in 2020. Not only was that COVID, but that was also Alameda fire. And you guys got hit on both ends, right at the end of your school year and then right in the beginning of your school year. So you can see that that has an impact with, when we look at enrollment, how that impacts you guys after the fire and the recovery rate that's been taking place over the past number of years. Why do we look at these numbers in particular? Well, we do this because it helps us to plan into the future of the next 5 to 10 years and how that enrollment might be impacting our kindergartners and our elementary schools and then on to the secondary level. We also want to be looking at housing permits and comparing that against live births. Housing permits are also a driver in this analysis because if homes are being built, then we know that families may come and the families may grow here, and that's impactful for, once again, for enrollment. On the left, we have are looking at the housing development versus birth rates in Phoenix, and the same then for Talent on the right. Once again, I put the line in for the for Alameda Fire, and we can see the impact of growth of the housing units coming back, people investing once again, rebuilding in the area. But you'll notice that our births still remain relatively flat across Phoenix and kind of differentiated for Talent, growing a little bit and then flattening off as it comes out into 24. So what does this mean for us from an enrollment perspective? So like many communities, as I mentioned earlier, birth rates are down and therefore districts are having to adjust their budgets as they start to think about enrollment assumptions and into the future. And when we look at trends, in 2009, that was the peak year in the past 20 years, with over 2,900 students, almost 3,000 children that you were serving at that time period. Since then, we can look in 2020, where we dropped off about 570 students from that time, which once again was impacted COVID and Alameda. And we see that across districts across the country. The COVID year was really impactful for so many districts, and it's taken them time to regain or bring back children, or they've not been able to realize the rebound, and they've basically remained flat or started to lose kids. I think you guys have read a lot of articles about this, so you know we're not unique in terms of Oregon or Washington State or California. That's pretty much happening across all of the United States. When we look to enrollment, we're continuing to see it slow down a little bit. And I want to focus in on how you can read this chart easily, so you can kind of follow your cohorts from kindergarten on through 12th grade. When you look at the red or the blue, the deeper the color suggests the deeper the red is the higher level of enrollment, and the deeper the blue is the lower. So when we look at the seventh grade, for example, in 2016, 17, am I looking at the right number? No, oh, I'm sorry, sixth grade. In 2016, 17, we had 208 children, and that was the same data for 2018, 19. As you go across in sixth grade, the darker color of what our projection is for 28, 29 is looking at 136 kiddos. And that will be the lowest enrollment that we expect that we will see. So I just want to make sure you're able to read the chart the right way. The chart on the lower right is the one that we talked a lot with John and with Superintendent when we're looking at birth rates. So what happened 5 years ago, there's an ecosystem that brings forward what the kindergarten grade is going to look like. So, for example, when we look at what's happening in 26, we're thinking about the births of 21. And the birth rate of 21 is the blue line is the birth rates. We're looking at about 85 kiddos were born in your district. That shows up then in our enrollment, the expected enrollment of about 108 kiddos in 26, 27, which you will see is the red circle in the graph right above it. So when you're thinking about what happens is those kindergartens come in and then they'll go to first grade and then they'll go to second grade and then they'll go to third grade. So you'll start to see them matriculate through your district, and then that has impact on elementary schools and middle schools and high school. Do you guys have any questions about that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
How do you factor the fire recovery into your methodology for this? For these numbers and families moving back into the area, or is that something you're able to consider at all?
Well, so you do see, for example, 21, 22, you start to see that their kids are coming back. So for example, if you look at 21, 22, first grade, there was 187 children. In second grade, that 108, those kiddos, not only did those 187 children move up, but then you garnered another, 5 or 8 kids. So you can start to see the children coming back from the previous year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'm talking about, over the next 5 years.
Right.
Is that something that you factored?
Right. So we took into consideration, we understand that there is development that is coming along. There's multifamily, and there are some other buildings that are taking place around and specifically, I believe there's a development taking place up near Orchard Elementary School. We just need to see what that's going to look like in terms of, is it multifamily, which has a lower level of kiddos that will come from that versus single family housing. So we do need to keep our eye on that. We just have not had a full-blown plan put before us that shows us how they're expecting those houses to develop over time in terms of the different phases that they're proposing. And in addition, when we're looking, we really are looking towards those birth rates because that gives us a solid indication of how many babies are being born in your area and them staying. And that's just a trend that we're seeing. You can go back in time, back to, our 2015 time horizon. You can see what the relationship is looking like. So housing and birthing rates are going to be drivers for what it's going to look like in the future.
Any other questions?
Does that help?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is the projections are based on birth rates, and as far as housing recovery, we're just not sure yet.
Yeah, we just don't have that. We just don't have that data. I mean, you could, when we go back and look at this slide right here, you can see in the blue that's where we have the housing is taking place, right? The red is our birth rates. So there is recovery taking place with building. And as I noticed, that there is that development located at Orchard Elementary with the 490 units coming online. And then potentially there's another 760, We just have to wait and see how that's going to roll out. And I know when I went back and we looked at, what the city was expecting, they're just not sure what that phasing is going to be looking like. So we think that could give us 150, 200 kiddos, but we just need to watch it carefully. Okay, so when we're thinking about where our kids are attending school and how that enrollment level is going to be impactful with where we serve our children, we looked at the utilization rates for our elementary, our middle, and high school. And what does that actually mean? How do we think about why utilization is important? A rule of thumb is that you ideally want to have utilization rates for your facilities between 80 and 85%. It's higher for elementary school kiddos because they're not moving around, they're not attending, going to different classrooms for different subject matter. And so theirs might be a little bit higher, and then middle schools and high schools might be a little bit lower. It depends on what your sweet spot, where you want to be. But that's kind of a good rule of thumb, is to think about the 80 to 85% generically across the board. When we look at our elementary schools, we have a capacity overall of about 1,400 seats for children. Our enrollment across our elementary schools is about 960 kiddos. So we have a utilization level about 60, almost 70%. We have excess seats or more places for children to come and join us of about 440 seats. Middle school, similar thought process of 990 seats. We have about 500 kiddos at our middle school, so for a 51% utilization level. And then when we look at our high, we have about 1,100 seats for our high school students. About 700 kiddos attend our high school, so we have approximately 62% overall. We're about 61% utilization level, so we have about almost 1,400 seats available.
Question, it's
Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
When we built the high school, we put in a percentage of I think it was 70%. Can you remind me what that was? Because we purposely built, at that time, for student rate was going up, the birth rate was still the same, so we built it on purpose to be bigger, right?
Well, it actually is built for 1,100, and I'll refresh your memory about what was going on back then. It's built right now for 1,100, but we built the collaboration rooms because we could actually go to a little over 1,300 if we took ownership of the classrooms away. And they spent their free periods and whatever in the collaboration rooms, and the rooms were literally occupied the whole time, kind of like they do up north, where it could be language arts one time and social studies the next period.
But we purposely built it for 1,100. I don't think that was what our student enrollment was at the time. We had built it that way to have a pad of growth, is what I'm saying. Like, we purposely if now we went back at the time, we probably wouldn't have done that. But at the time, we expected the big growth. So that's okay.
Yeah, we built it for growth the way that it sits. And then we came up with a contingency plan if we exceeded that.
I just wanted to point that out for some people that was a purposeful move on our part, was to have the growth, even though. Okay, sorry.
And this might be a question for Susan as well, but we passed a $68 million bond and already have 90% capacity. That might not show well for our community and safety.
Right.
So I know these numbers are low, but I think, coming off the bond, it's been purposeful for growth, even though the numbers don't say it on this sheet. We're prepared for the future for growth.
Right, and it's flexibility, right? What you're able to use your buildings for, and how you can explore opportunities for other student enrichment, objectives. So it is the students that you're serving. This is the space. You're able to then kind of imagine what can be for the children in those spaces. That gives you flexibility.
And the reason why we're doing RFPs for preschool is because we have space, we want to.
Right. And how those children could potentially, well, we'll get to that. That's one of the, I don't want to jump ahead. Yeah, exactly. So this page is just a real quick snapshot that you can take a look at all of your facilities across the board. How big are they? When were they built? It goes to how did your investments fare? When you look at the facility condition index, the way that's calculated is you take your identified needs, your identified financial needs, and divide that by the replacement value of that building. Replace it exactly as its footprint is right now. And so you can see John's investments in the buildings has gone quite well. The highest FCI is 11% over at Orchard Hill Elementary, and we'll show you why that's a little bit higher than the others. But the balance of your schools are well below your 10% threshold of in great condition, and we'll show you where that actually is on the matrix. Once again, we also have the capacity on here, the enrollment, as well as the projected enrollment, looking out 5 years based on the information that we have at this time, which basically can show you what can change and what flexibility you may have looking out 3 to 5 years. Okay, on this page, let me go back for just one real quick second. When we look at the capital needs, total needs that were identified when Josh walked through all of your facilities, we come up with about $9 million. And the question is, well, where are those needs? How do we identify that? And on this page, we basically do a waterfall and show you that the big cost, as you'll notice, is roof costs, and that's at Orchard. So that's the $3 million ticket item that is driving that facility condition percentage at Orchard. And the rest of them are systems related, ceilings, floors, technology. So they're ones that you're going to have continuing to update and maintain anyway. And there's just that picture for John as he starts to think about how he's going to invest and spend the dollars that he has available to him for capital with your review and blessing. So what does that look like over time? We have in 2025, this is where we sit at about $9 million. And why do you do a long-term plan? Because you want to be thinking about how you continue to invest your finite capital dollars the most effective and efficient way. And if you don't think about that, well, then it just becomes exponential. So that over 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, you can see how by not continuing to invest in those facilities, that deferred maintenance can just become quite significant. So looking out to 40, 45, going out 20 years, you're looking at taking the $9 million cost or need, and it escalates up to almost $61 million. So what John has been doing and what you guys did with your 2018 bond and reinvesting in your facilities now and continuing to do so can keep these deferred maintenance costs well below the trajectory that some districts who do not do that end up facing a big bubble in the future. Okay, so we touched earlier on the adequacy. I just wanted to let you know these are what the Oregon Department of Ed requires that we look at: acoustics, air quality, technology, also, all the way down to little kindergartners, do they have access to bathrooms and things like that. And I know we're all very sensitive about, well, at least we are out here in Colorado, we have no snow. So I'm envious that you guys have gotten a lot recently, but just the quality, air quality and temperatures and things like that regulated through your buildings, we look at that as well. So when you put it all together, you're like, okay, well, where do we stand? Where are we positioned? This is just a decision matrix, and it's a generic one in the sense of, when people are thinking about what their utilization is, what their facility condition is, where do they stand, how do they make decisions about what investments need to be made. This is just kind of a helpful chart to take you through the thought process. So when we look at where you guys are, down here on the utilization axis, the x-axis, once again, as I mentioned, your sweet spot is 80, 85%. When you go over that amount, you start to put stresses on the building one way because you're having students in closets, with their teachers for pull-out processes and things like that. That's stressing the building one way. And when you're on the utilization, underutilization, you start to think about how could we use our facilities differently? How do we serve our children in these buildings? What community opportunities might we explore so that we can improve our utilization levels? And you guys are also in the lower left-hand side of the physical condition of your plant, which is great. As I mentioned earlier, you're well under the 10%, and your facility investments are within financial reality for you all to continue to put dollars into your buildings. Do you have any questions on this one? Okay, great. Okay, so let's talk about what the investments considerations were. We talked with the administrative team about, okay, this is what your capacity is for your facilities. This is what your current enrollment is. What are the different options we can be thinking about on how to improve the utilization across the board? What about reducing deferred maintenance costs? Okay, I wanted to identify what those were. How about operating costs? If your buildings are in great shape, your operating costs, as John will tell you, are going to be less because you're not having to constantly be fixing things and costs going up. And then we also want to look at how you're building your financial resiliency moving into the future. So what did we talk about? We talked about, well, opportunities to consider, as was mentioned, maybe pre-K. What about working with community partners to put pre-K into our elementary schools? What would that do for us? Well, we could have 1 or 2 classrooms of pre-K, partnership with community partners, and then those children that are already there would naturally then go into kindergarten and be added along with those children that are coming into kindergarten directly. So that's a consideration. We also looked at what other opportunities might be afforded for student learning experiences, what potential partnerships could come along with that, with mentorships and apprenticeships, et cetera. So those are things to be thinking about when, yes, our utilization is not where we would necessarily want it to be at this time, but how could we potentially improve that, and what partnerships could we explore as we move into the future? So just to help you guys think through what that might look like, right now, your current capacity is a footprint of about, across the board, of about 436,000 square feet. That's where we sit right now. If you said, okay, well, Susan, come on, if I was going to get to 100% utilization and I'd be stressing my buildings, and what would that look like? Well, you'd have to almost cut it down by about 200,000 square feet. That would be used that way. And the sweet spot, if you're the 80 or 85%, okay, we might be in the 312,000 square feet. Well, what does that mean if, from a operations perspective, how does that impact us? Well, if you were to, get down to that utilization level with that footprint, or how the square feet were used, you'd be looking at about an $800,000 operating benefit. That would be the savings that could be realized. So that's just something thinking, as was mentioned earlier, well, what happens if enrollment doesn't shift, if we don't see growth taking place? Then that's the time to start thinking about, well, what could we do differently, and what savings could be realized? And so that's just something to put, kind of a sticky on and hold that and think about it a year or two from now. If things shift and change and enrollment starts increasing, then that doesn't have to be really a subject matter. If not, if it doesn't adjust, then that's something to be thinking about in terms of what could be. Any questions on that one? Okay, great. Okay, when we talk about the available revenue for capital investments, overall you have general fund allocation that comes over for John of about $200,000. So the total amount over the next 5 years is about $1 million. And then you have the construction excise tax that comes in on an annual basis, estimated about $170,000. So we're looking at about $850,000 over the next number of years. So for a total of about $1.8 million, almost $1.9 million that you'll have to spend over the next 5 years from just those 2 revenue streams. What we wanted to at least put into the pot, so to speak, as you guys are thinking about where you want to be 3 to 5 years from now, the Oregon Department does provide matching dollars up to $6 million if you decided to go down that route and borrow dollars in the future for a general obligation bond. So they would match you up to 6 million, you'd have to provide 6 million. So when you're thinking about your deferred maintenance, that's 9 million. When we look at some of the other opportunities to be explored in the next 3 to 5 years, that's something to consider as well. But that's really where you stand right now on a cash flow basis on an annual basis, and with the option that you could explore general obligation bonds in the future. So when we're looking at the priorities across the board, roofing was kind of put in the first bucket of about 4.8 million. The next bucket down was what I mentioned earlier, just different systems, the doors, the lighting, ceilings, and then the option 3 is the parking lots, the asphalt to be upgraded over time. How that breaks apart across the different schools, when we look at Orchard is the big one with the tile roof that needs to be replaced. The other options for Orchard are, just the priority repairs that have been identified. And we also, this is no dollars associated with it, but could you potentially incorporate a partnership for a pre-K, couple classrooms? The same for Phoenix. We look at the priority repairs that identified for the deferred maintenance work is about 1.1 as well, and then also the partnership for pre-K. And then for talent, there's going to be the remodeling of the bathrooms. That's taking place this next year or this next summer, as I believe John had mentioned. Then we have priority repairs. Potentially, should we think about relocating the outdoor discovery, repurposing that site? What kind of experience do we want for our kiddos in that? And then the other one is, once again, do we put pre-K with partnership into that school as well? The middle school, there we go. Middle school has about 1.4 million of need. Then there's also the conversation about what about upgrading the track and field? That should be a consideration as well for those children. And then what about, since you are all definitely providing opportunities for children to explore what can be beyond high school with the CTE opportunities, could you start the CTE work earlier at the middle school so that there be kind of a continuum of education opportunity, a line, so to speak, that draws from middle school to high school? And in that case, if you could remodel a couple of the classrooms, that'd be about $2 million. If you were to build new, that would be about $3.5 million. And then for the Phoenix High School, that's basically brand new, and just identified a couple items for a ticket item about $300,000. And then there's the Early Learning Center, which looked at fixing the pirate ship area, and the cost of about that area, fencing, et cetera, is about $125,000. Okay, and then the last one for consideration is the Culver Park Sports Complex. That would be multiple phases for development, and that could also afford people to have community engagement with that and community partners with the build out, potentially with your cities and maybe the county. That's something to explore. But the initial phase is about $10 million with a total build out over time of current dollars of about $35 million. So those were the different options that were raised for consideration. Do you guys have any questions about those?
I have a question, and it might be more for Brent or John, but I'm alarmed by the need for a $3.7 million roof for Orchard Hill. So I'm hoping we could speak to what's driving that, and what brings that on. I would think, when we did the bond, we would have done an assessment of our facilities. So what was the condition of the roof in 2017, and how has it changed so poorly in the last 7 years? Because to me, I look at these things and I agree seems to be, we're talking about a roof. So I would have a hard time supporting a sports complex if we need a new roof in one of our schools. So can you speak to just what's causing that?
When we, 10 years ago, when we did this, there was a few sections of this roof that were failing. one was over the library. We redid those with that money.
Mm-hmm.
This building was built in 1982,
Mm-hmm.
with a roof that has a lifespan of 50 years. So it is about 3 years from its lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
and it was me that called it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually brought it to Brian a few times that at some point, we're gonna have to look at that roof. It was
Yeah.
not a consideration in the past bond.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the same thing, there's a chiller, HVAC, piece of HVAC equipment, it's the only piece of equipment in the district that we haven't replaced yet.
Okay.
But that was because at the time I had engineers look at it and they said, oh, it's still in good shape. It is at, close to its time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to consider would be Don would have been there for the last one, when the last time we did this, what they considered the need with all of the deferred maintenance was closer to $94 million. And we went for a $68 million bond
Right.
and figured we would just have to figure out a way
Mm-hmm.
to get some of this stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And as has been kind of pointed out, we got the $68 million bond, but we've stretched this into nearly $90 million.
Right. Right.
With all the grants and everything, so
Mm-hmm.
there still was a need back then.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what they're talking about at the other schools, Orchard Hill's the only one with big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All the other schools are replace the gym doors because they're old
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna need it eventually. It's
Right.
all small stuff that is the same stuff that I do every summer. I target these things, and that's why we're so far ahead.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about replacements, when they came back with the $3.7 million, we were pretty astonished because
I still kind of think it's smaller than that, but when they project their numbers, it's based on us not being able to afford it this year. It's based on best case scenario, if we were to go for a bond or something like that, we're probably 2 years out, best case.
Mm-hmm.
So the prices are somewhat based on that, but I will say, I had roofers out here last week and I'm expecting a ballpark, a number.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna be checking numbers to see
Sure.
if there's any other way that we could do it
Right.
less expensive sooner, if we can find the funds.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Appreciate that. So, I mean, is it leaking? Is it just based on the age of it? We know that
It's based on age. We have done maintenance on it. We did have to make some modifications and as somebody that understands roofing. So when you put a roof on like this, you put tar paper underneath. Well, that's actually your waterproof, right? The tile protects the waterproofing. It protects it from hail, it protects it from UV, all of that stuff. So we actually had to pull some of the tile up and the paper was almost dust. It was just brittle. So I'm like, okay, we don't have a whole lot, many more years to go before we'll be facing the issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I would just say thank you for being so on top of it, because being on pace, I see claims of roofs. And things have changed recently in the insurance industry, and I really appreciate you being on top of it before we're in the middle of a mess.
And then I was curious, there's a lot of talk around the state about woodland beams or glulam beams. Was that something? I didn't see that show up in the report, so.
Okay, so that's not in this report,
Yeah.
but by the end of this month, we should find out whether we get the grant that I
Yeah.
submitted
Okay.
for the reporting.
The assessment of it.
Yeah, and I've already made contact with engineers. We've been to each of the buildings.
Yeah.
We just haven't done the formal assessment.
Got it. Okay. That could be an additional cost potentially though, that's not reflected in.
Well, if we get the TAP grant, which most of the time you do, it will cover our engineering costs. So it should not cost us anything to get it done.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so then walking into community engagement, we had a survey that went out in the middle of January through early February. We had 73 participants, and I just want to focus in on, we had a lot of parents that came forward to bring their voice to the conversation. They prioritized pretty much, how students were going to be impacted. That's where they wanted the investments to be made. And it was what I really appreciated was that it was across the board. You had a pretty good balance of where people lived and who responded. And I'll show you that on the next page. So it was a diverse crowd that came out to participate in the survey. So real quick, Talent Elementary, Phoenix Elementary, and Orchard, that was I'm sorry, Orchard should be up on the upper right-hand side. I don't know why it's not there. But Orchard was about 16%, 40% was Phoenix Elementary, and 37%. We just asked them to identify where their elementary school was in their area so that we could kind of figure out who was responding. We also looked at the survey by people how long they had lived in the area, and the greatest number of people were the 15 years and the 1 to 5 years. So that was a good mix because we figure those are the parents, those are the families that are participating. And then by age, we can once again see predominantly parents 20 to 40 years old and 41 to 64 years old made up that big portion of like 95%. So those were good voices to be heard from. Okay, so this is what we asked them, for the ranking of, what they would have priority, and that was basically what we just went through. But the top 6, 3.7 was the roof, upgrade track and field. What about construct a remodel for CTE at the middle school? What about rebuild or a new build, sorry, at the middle school for CTE? And then how about the pre-K across the board? That really doesn't have a price tag on it because, as we mentioned earlier, it was going to be, we're looking at community partners and how that could work. And then the Culver Park Sports Complex. So the way it was ranked, we only had about 20% of the 73 actually give us the ranking. So my suggestion would be that as you start to formulate this, maybe 2 or 3 years out, if you start to think about, hey, we really do want to think about maybe we do invest in the sports complex, or maybe we do want to extend the CTE at the middle school. What might that look like? That you would actually go out and have a really solid survey to find out what the level of support would be of the communities. But in this case, we're looking at the Orchard Hill roof came in as the number one investment that was identified. Then they had the pre-K state or district wide, and that one's not really wouldn't really cost you. So that's something that could be done sooner rather than later. And then the middle school CTE, then the sports complex, and then the middle school synthetic turf, and then a new build for CTE at the middle school was at the bottom of the list. So that just can help you kind of frame moving forward where your priorities might be to support student learning. So when we start to think about what we're looking for, in how we approach utilization is going to be important, and decisions that need to be made moving forward as more kiddos come in. Do we need, to adjust? Do we do the pre-K? What is that going to look like so that we can have a really good idea of how we're going to improve utilization at our facilities? Continue to invest in schools, as John and Brent have mentioned. You guys are constantly looking at that and finding grant dollars, et cetera. So that continues on. You want to be able to balance your capital spending with ongoing operating capacity. So being very sensitive to your enrollment levels, what your dollars are coming in for children. The revenue is going to be critical. Continue to incorporate both the physical space utilization as well as programming decisions. What can we do to enhance the children's experiences at our buildings with the extra space that we may have at this time without tying our hands into the future? And then, as I mentioned earlier, when you think about how you might want to be investing dollars differently with those investments that I just mentioned, do we need to garner a little bit more support or understand what the community is willing to invest into the future? Okay, so our timeline looks as the following. We'll finalize the master plan, any input or suggestions or comments that you guys have. If you can funnel them through Brent and John and they'll send them to us, we can incorporate that in the document. We'll send this over to you ideally. Our target is April. We can do it in May, whatever works in your calendar is really up to your schedule. Then we need to just submit it to the state of Oregon with the finalization of the report, and then you move forward with how you want to implement accordingly. I do have an appendix which really talks about some of the ideas that did come forward from the community. If you guys just have a couple more moments, or we can end it there. You have the document, and I can answer any questions. It's up to you.
Yeah, well, I think let's reserve some time for questions or comments. I think we can read through it.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions? I think something that's just sticking out for me is I'm thinking about the reliability of a sample size of 73 people
Yep.
in a district with 3,000 voters
Right.
in the last election, roughly. And so,
I think what to keep in mind too, this is a grant, this is required by the grant. And just like we did with the bond, if we were gonna go out for any capital investment, it would be multiple in-person meetings and
Right.
and outreach and things like that. So I appreciate you sharing that. This is a small sample size of just an example of what could be, but in investing millions of dollars again into our facilities, it would be again a full-fledged outreach process.
Right, which is why I iterated that you would definitely have to take take what you decide, and then really go take the pulse, and see where the community sits.
Also, the student community, I really didn't see representation on that.
No, there was de minimis. I think we had one.
So this is a starting point.
Right.
Really. And probably the biggest thing is identifying what the needs are and those deferred maintenance costs. So.
Yeah, I think through this process, we'll get some really good, strong recommendations and some really good data. There are different ways to gauge enrollment for districts, and so we could also look at those types of things. We typically gauge incoming kindergarten with our students with special needs that we're having, and when those are up, our kindergarten enrollments are up typically, and they seem to be up. So there are different ways to engage enrollment too.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's, in light of that, that's kind of upfront, was really keeping your eye on what that looks like over that next couple of school years is going to be critical with decisions that will be made.
When you do this in Oregon and those numbers, how closely does that pan out in the next 3 to 5 years as far as those enrollment numbers? But I saw some other numbers in, I think there was Salem Kaiser about some drastic reductions in enrollment. So I think that was a PSU study you were using mainly.
Right, yes. And I will caveat this. What we have seen, not only in Oregon, but across the country, with the border changes and with the demographics being impacted, there's a lot of noise in the data. And for example, I'm here in Colorado, but the client that I had this past year up in Oregon, you could see there's dramatic change in enrollment that wasn't expected. And so those, I think, Brent, to your point, really closely watching how those births are taking place and how the enrollment is hitting over the next 2 years, 3 years, to see what that recovery is going to look like. Does it continue? Because you guys have continued to bring students in. But the birth rates are just hitting everybody across the country, and you can see it. And so Oregon's not unique, Washington's not unique. We see it in California, we see it in Arizona and Colorado. It's just something that I think has kind of hit all of us that we didn't expect. And then you also have choice health, which is not necessarily your challenge at this time, but that's been a ripple across school districts as well, having to adjust accordingly. So I agree with you 100% that one, you need to keep looking at housing. Two, what those birth rates are looking like and what you're able to actually receive coming into your kindergartners, and those are going to be drivers because those are going to be impactful as you watch your kids go through your school system.
Well, appreciate all the work and effort, John, thank you. And I think probably some of the information's sitting a little heavy right now. But that's one thing I appreciate about this district is that, we can't bury our heads in the sand. We have to know what the needs are. And, this is an important starting place. So, and
Right.
we also have to update our long range plan. So thank you for all your efforts, Susan, and for the presentation today. We appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Pretty dense.
Right. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, any comments before we move on?
That was really dense.
Yes.
Dense, lots of information, but
Yeah.
kind of clearly understood. I
Yeah.
don't think there were any initials in there.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, good.
Bravo.
Yeah, please.
I just wanted to thank you guys for your patience. This is
Yeah.
longer than I thought.
That's okay.
But it is good information and I
Yeah.
appreciate all the great questions.
Yeah.
And as always, I appreciate all of you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Okay, consent, I know, it looked like such an innocent little thing there. IMG. Okay, we're gonna do the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent? agenda?
We're prepared, leaving.
Feel like Medford, okay.
I'm going to approve, like I said, it's agenda as presented.
Thank you, Dawn.
Second.
Thank you, Diana. Any objections? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Information and discussion, legislative OSBA update.
I can try to make this fast.
Okay.
So things are moving really fast. What I would say tonight would probably change. As mentioned earlier, we did the advocacy day. It was the biggest group of Southern Oregon. Even though some people did not show up because of the weather, it was still a big, huge sign up. And I did this year we did it with different organizations, COSA and the business managers. And it was nice to have that collaboration in the meetings and talking. So that was really good. What all the coalitions are on right now is the Ed Stability Fund. And so that's a fund that was put together. I have no idea when. Lottery money fills into it. And right now it's capped, so you can't put any more money into it. It's full. And so if we take money out for budget challenges, and leave some in there, it will automatically fill up again from lottery funds. So it's kind of as Representative McIntyre says, this is a no-brainer. It's full. We need to empty it so we can put more money in it. It's silly to have it full, and the money not going to this fund. So I think it will pass. Some of the representatives didn't understand the whole concept, so just giving representatives and senators the information so they understood how it worked, and it was very helpful, and I think we need to continue doing that. And then as Nancy mentioned, DC went better than I expected, to tell you the truth. And I have been going to advocacy. They keep on changing, they keep on adding more stuff to it, but I've been going to advocacy for quite a while now, and I feel like this is the best one that I've had so far. The leadership part, not the best, but the advocacy part one I felt was the best. And I don't know if Nancy wanted to add anything else.
No. I think there's a lot of value in listening to very diverse voices and diverse perspectives. And I think, you know, this effort of continued relationship building, so we can better understand one another. While we might initially our brains are designed to just make really quick decisions and think really fast and just jump to a lot of conclusions and assumptions. Sometimes it's so nice when we have time to slow that process down, build a relationship, and really ask curious questions about why, you know, funding is going or decisions are made the way the decisions are made. I mean, that's actually like one of the huge takeaways that I gleaned from the last like 2 years, how sometimes people will vote on a decision and our knee-jerk reaction is, oh my gosh, I can't believe that they would do it like this. And then when you ask deeper questions, you get better understanding of why. And sometimes the answer is not super obvious. So, and I think that we had that experience a couple of times. That was really refreshing to just slow down, ask questions, build that relationship so we can then trust one another better when we're asking for more or when we're advocating for more. While also supporting what other people are doing, right? Because it's not an easy time, but I think that together we can come to better support a broader range of students through that relationship building. So yeah, that's all.
Well, we thank you both for attending and for advocating, and thank you, Dawn, for the update as well. Okay, financial report.
Yeah, in your package, you have a financial report. If you have me, you can grab the mic. She'll walk you through it.
Yeah.
Good evening, board and everyone. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so, first thing to know in the financial report is, right now, we are projecting a 25% end income balance is our revenue, so about $12.5 million. The reason why it's so high, I did an analysis of expenditures, you know, and what we did is a lot of the positions that we had budgeted in general fund, we ended up being able to utilize some of those for grants. For instance, even for the school-based mental health grant, the federal grant, we ended up being able to utilize some of those dollars and transferring them to that grant to utilize it through December. So other than that, it's good news for us. Since we received the ADM security money from the beginning of the year, even though the interest rates are going a little bit down, it's about 4.16%. All that money sitting on the account has been giving us quite a bit of interest. So compared to last year, we received $691,000 in general fund dollars for interest. So far, we've received $566,000. So I project that by the end of the year, even if we close down a little bit, it's gonna be around $900,000, just in interest, and those money sitting there. So I don't know if you have any questions for the general fund.
The roughly $1.2 million difference between the adopted budget and the projected for salaries and associated payroll costs. Is that the grant funded positions that you're talking about, or something else driving that?
Part of it is grant funded. We also had some positions that we have planned to hire.
Okay.
And it just didn't happen,
Okay.
like the financial.
One position was a FTE that we were gonna move to the high school for financial literacy from the middle school. And we ended up absorbing that curriculum in the social studies department, so.
Okay.
And we also have two positions that were in the general fund for special education. And we needed to move them to the IDEA grant to be able to utilize the whole allocation for this year.
Okay.
So that's just an example of things that we have moved around and the reason why we have such an overage on the account, so. Anyway. Any other questions for Jennifer?
And you moved the contingency out of,
Yes, another reason why it looks pretty high is because I figured at this point in time, we're not going to need to use the $600,000. So,
Oh, and so all of these projections get us through the end of the fiscal year, right? Including the 3 payments that go for payroll in June, or is that
Correct.
corporate? Okay.
yeah,
Right.
yes. So this is just for the end of this fiscal
Okay.
year. We already started working on projections for
Yeah.
the next year of the biennium and the
Yeah.
next biennium, I share them with friends, so
Mhm.
we'll have to discuss those during the budget, but of
Sure.
course, we're not going to have a 25%.
Right.
In the amount.
I just took one quick moment. There are literally districts who forget to budget for those summer payroll and then end up bankrupt or broke by the end of the year. And so I know that's a low bar, but thank you.
Thank you for not forgetting.
For the careful budgeting for all of our payroll for the whole fiscal year.
Accounting system.
Yes.
We have the whole year.
In our state. Anyway, thank you. Okay.
Okay, on the second page, you have the bond dollars that we have left over for this year. So far for this month, we have $1.9 million left over. At the end of the year, we're projecting about $1.8 million. This is the consideration of interest received and expenditures that we have encountered as of right now. For construction excise, is showing 316,000 as of January 31st. I'm projecting that if we receive the rebate monies for the TMS solar grant, then we should have about $231,000. The expenditures, 925,000, that's with all encumbrances for including the TES solar grant as well. I don't expect that we'll receive that revenue this year for the TES grant, but we'll have to talk about it.
Also some.
Okay, yes, I was gonna say, if we don't receive TMS and TES, I may need to make a transfer from the general fund to the construction excise tax. To have it to zero until we receive those monies, which is about 600,000, if I'm not mistaken, between the two grants. 500, 600,000, which it will go back in the construction excise tax.
So just a timing thing?
It is, I believe, and John knows more about this, but
I feel like I'm striking a chord, John.
yes, John, but once the grant is completely inspected and verified, then we can receive the full monies for the grant, and then we can also submit for incentive and incentive reimbursements, which we have to wait sometimes a few months to receive those. That's why I'm like, well, this is what I'm projecting, but we'll make it work by the end of the year.
Yeah. And when you say end of the year, you mean fiscal year?
The fiscal year,
Yeah,
June,
okay.
not
Got
this
it.
calendar.
Yeah, it's fast approaching.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Hudson.
Okay. Next item is renewal of teacher administrative contract.
yeah, so we are continuing to work with our administrators and our teachers, and we will have a final list at the next meeting for the renewals and the non-renewals.
Okay. And then dropout and graduation.
Yeah, I mean, you have a few charts in your packet, and the one chart where it has a 4-year cohort graduation rate and has subgroups, that's one you've seen in the state of the district that I've been sharing. So you saw that before. Denise put together some other comparisons to other districts and high schools as well. That shows, it's a little tougher to see, but you can just see how we compare Phoenix High School to other high schools in the region, and we fare very well. Then there's also a dropout rate calculation, and that's the final. That's the final one. Yeah. chart you have, and since our graduation is really high in our cohort rate, we also have a low dropout rate. And again, when you look at the district and our graduation rate and dropout rate, we do have Armadillo that is in there as well. But Denise has put together all the high schools and the charter schools and the district information. So when you're out there talking or getting asked that question, you can have those tools ready for you.
Well, it's a big celebration, especially as we look at the graduation rate amongst some of those other underserved populations. So very well done.
Do you know what might be some of the contributing factors that allow us to have these graduation rates?
We need a 45-minute program report on that.
True.
Brief.
Yeah.
In brief.
I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, what are the driving factors for our graduation rate?
I think the support systems we have in place, I think the connections and the relationships. I mean, we'll have spring break school coming up for our seniors. We, not all of our graduates get to rock across the stage in June. And so we help them also in the summer continue to earn credit towards that. And so if they, any senior that graduates before the start of the next school year goes into the graduation rate, even though they don't get to.
Okay.
And Eric, I don't know if you want to share anything.
I was going to say the level of interventions that we have are focused on MTSS system and making sure that we are knowing every single kid and their story and their circumstances so that when they do get to seniors in the summer, if we couldn't get them across the stage, then it's whatever needs to happen to make sure the kids have what they need to meet them where they're at. If that means a McDonald's, then that's where we're going to make sure that we are tracking that.
I also think one of the things is that it's getting off to a good start is so important. So that's why that 9th grade on track number. And so if our kids earn 6 credits their freshman year, they're well on their way to meet that graduation rate requirement.
Thank you. And I do understand that there's a lot of beautiful work that happens, and I'm really, really grateful. And I'm just curious, like, I'm not suggesting that we do more, but in my head, it also makes me think, like, how can we replicate this, not just in our school district, but also in other school districts that continue to struggle or their graduation rates might be lower? Because again, it's not just thinking about locally what's happening here, but thinking a little bit more broadly around our neighboring schools and our neighboring communities, because there's also a lot of transition that happens within students from one school district to another because of mobility, because of event, or because of, various reasons. That I was just thinking, like, how can we be the guinea pig for people to do a little bit more studying? Because I think it's so helpful, and I love that our students have that support. And it also makes me think about what could other school districts do to also achieve this level of support. And I mean, there's a lot of factors, and I know that we're really fortunate to have really great staff and teachers and administrators and all across folks making this school system work. And I'm just thinking, how do we continue to strengthen but also replicate it even with middle school? Middle school is such a lovely time, but it's also a weird, funny time for students. And how do we not just like do this sprint at the end of high school, but how do we continuously implement those strategies and implementations throughout K through 12? But that's a bigger conversation. I know, it just went up.
It might be a really good article for the little paper that comes out on the state level to really emphasize that statistic and why we think we got there.
Yeah.
Because that would be instructional for the state.
Great. But one of the ways that we collaborate regionally is through the SOESD. And so I might suggest that rather than taking a recess, we just take that action item up now, so we can call it a night. Is everyone good with that?
Yeah.
I heard, a little birdie told me that Dawn's in support this year, so I suspect that this will go pretty quickly. So up for action is the 26-27 local service plan with the SOESD. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the 2027 ESD Local Service Plan and Student Success at Comprehensive Support Plan as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Diana. Discussion? Dawn?
Do I dare? So,
Yes.
honestly, you guys all know that I have not been completely satisfied with the ESD, but I do feel like things are getting better. I was really reluctant having a board member, not 7 new board members out of 9. That's quite a bit of a change, having a new superintendent, having a new administrative, like I was nervous. But I do feel like the board members have come in and learned, the staff has supported the board members. I feel like Mark, I was not so sure about his person-centered strategy, but I have seen growth in the staff. I just got to spend time with Erin and Kylie up yesterday, and their message is similar to Mark's. I watched the video of this presentation on the school board, very similar. So that was like, oh, I feel like he is supporting them. They have, Kylie has grown in the last year. I feel like Erin was very wanting to learn. They were over and over saying, you know, we want to collaborate more, we want to listen. So I feel like personally, it says on paper the services are the same, but I'm hopeful that it's like a 2.0. The services are the same on paper, but in reality, I feel like staff is listening and hearing and changing things. So I just want to make sure Brent's nodding yes. Okay, so we're on the same page. So yes, I highly support this one.
Wow. Look at that.
Look at that.
Okay.
And I really appreciate when there's questions, because I
Yes.
think that the effort is not criticism, it's like,
Right.
how do we continue to make things better? Or at least that's my perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they're listening now.
Right.
I just, yeah, I think over the years, they're gonna need to continue to narrow the focus to meet the greatest need. So, yeah, but I have seen a marked improvement as well, so. Awesome. Are we ready to vote? Holly, are you still with us?
I'm still here.
Okay, I just realized that you haven't been able to.
You just forgot about me. It's okay, Michael. I'm
No.
still here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give her a hand.
I can
Okay.
speak up. I'm
All right.
fine.
You've just been soaking it all in. All right, we'll start with you on this vote.
Yes.
Okay, Diana?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Oh,
Plan is approved.
This is the first year that's
Amazing. Amazing.
Off the record.
There is no such thing. We're still in session. So the next board meeting is there for your review. We got some fun evaluation stuff coming up, so I know Brent's super pumped about that. And we are too, and yeah, we'll see everybody on March 4th.
Great.